Ah, Sodor, we meet again, an oily voice said.
Is this even the right place? Yeah,
said two oily voices. Shut up and get back. The boss wouldn't want you two to ruin the plan, the other oily voice said.
Alright,
said the two diesels. Just remember, we are coming for you, said the diesel. Mainline Engine 2 Productions and Thomas and Friends Wooden Railway Originals are proud to present Invasion of the Diesels. Summer was coming to a close on the island. All of the passengers were going home, and the rest of the engines were getting ready for the fall. The Flying Scotsman was still visiting on the island, and he was enjoying himself enormously. And things were running smoothly. One afternoon, Thomas was picking up passengers at Knapford Station. What a wonderful day. I haven't been late once today, Thomas said. He then soon puffed away. Thomas was heading up to Ulstead Station. It was his last passenger drop-off of the day. Then as he was passing through Farquhar Station, he saw a line of trucks on the line. Oh no, help, I can't stop, Thomas said. Soon crashed into the trucks. Now what am I going to tell Sir Topham Hatt, Thomas said. Oh, said the station master. I'll call for help, he said, as he then walked back into the station. Austin then soon arrived later with Sir Topham Hatt on board. Thomas, what happened here? Sir Topham Hatt asked. I don't know, sir. I was going down the line, and then suddenly these trucks appeared out of nowhere on the middle of the line, Thomas said. Said Sir Topham Hatt. Strange. Austin, do you know anything about this? No, sir, but there were some trucks missing from the Tidmouth shunting yards earlier today, Austin said. I guess I found them, he said. All right then, Sir Topham Hatt said. Let's clean this mess up. Thomas, you'll be going to the works, Sir Topham Hatt said. Yes, sir, Thomas said. Austin was then soon coupled up to the hurt freight cars in Annie and Clareville. He then steamed back to the Tidmouth shunting yards. And Percy arrived to take Thomas to the works. So what exactly happened again? Asked Percy as they passed through Wellsborough Station. Well, said Thomas, I was passing through Farquhar Station, and then these random trucks appeared out of nowhere on the line and I hit them, Thomas said. Oh, how strange, Percy said, as the two engines then pulled up to the works siding. Yeah, I know, Thomas said as Percy shunted him into place. Well, Thomas, I'll see you later, Percy said, as he then puffed away back to the sheds. But I still wonder who put those trucks there, Thomas said to himself. Later that night, Bear was headed to Vickerstown Station. Mustn't be late, he said. When he arrived at the station, he coupled up to his trucks quickly. It was pitch black and Bear couldn't see a thing. Hopefully I won't have any trouble seeing tonight, Bear said. Just then, Bear heard another diesel. Who's there? Bear said. No reply. The diesel then came up to Bear and biffed him off the side. The siding that Bear was on had no buffers, just a ramp off. and underneath the ramp was a ledge that led off into the ground below. The mysterious Diesel didn't waste any time getting away from the scene of the accident. A few hours later, the station master at Netfru Station had been waiting on Bear all night. I wonder where he could be, the station master said. The next morning, Toby arrived at Vickerstown to bring in some empty freight cars. Well, that was easy. It's time to get back to Farquhar, Toby said. He then heard a voice. Help! Help! Who's that? Toby said. Over here, said the voice. Toby then uncoupled from his train of trucks and went to investigate. When Toby got to the end of the siding, he was horrified. Bear, what are you doing down there? Toby asked. I don't know, an engine pushed me down here last night, Bear said. Okay, I'll go get help, Toby said. He then puffed away as quick as he could. At the quarry, Bill was shunting cars, and Boko was about ready to take his train to the docks. Then Toby came. Help! Help! There's an accident! It's an emergency, Toby said. What's going on? Asked Bear. Yes, Toby, tell us! Yes, Toby, you must! Bear fell off the siding at Vickerstown Station. We need to get Sir Topham Hatt immediately, Toby said. Alright then. Ben, take these trucks to the docks. Bill, stay here. Let's go, Toby. Boko said as he was uncoupled from his trucks and the two engines moved quickly. Alright, Ben said. The two engines steamed through the docks and over the harbor bridge. And then through Ellsbridge Station. And they soon arrived at Nashville. Daisy was there with Henrietta, and Diesel was there with some barrel cars. Sir Topham Hatt and the Natford station master was also there. Help, help, there's an emergency, Boko said. What's going on? Asked Sir Topham Hatt. Bear got shoved off the siding at Vickerstown, Toby said. Oh no, we must go immediately, Sir Topham Hatt. Wait here. I'll go get some flatbeds, Diesel said. He then oiled the way back to the yard. He arrived back a few minutes later with the flatbeds. There you go, Diesel said. Let's go, Hatt said. He then climbed aboard Boko's cab. And Boko, Toby, Sir Topham Hatt, and Diesel with the flatbed cars hurried away to Vickerstown Station. About an hour later, the group of engines arrived at Vickerstown Station. What's going on? Gordon asked. There's been an accident, said Boko. Where? Here? Gordon asked. Yes, Boko said. Alright then, I have to take the express, so I'll see you later, Gordon said as he then puffed away from Vickerstown Station with the express. Diesel, Boko, and Toby soon got to the end of Vickerstown Station. Sir Topham Hatt stepped out of Boko's cab and surveyed the damage. Well, Bear, what got you into this situation? Sir Topham Hatt asked. An engine shoved me off that siding, Bear said. Well, I'm glad you're still here. But the milk trucks weren't as fortunate as you. They have been destroyed.
Well, there goes this week's milk, Diesel said.
Diesel soon flipped around, and Bear was put on the flatbeds. "No, Bear, you'll be going to the works, and you might be there for a while," Sir Topham Hatt said. "Yes, sir, of course, sir," Bear said. Diesel then oiled away with Bear in tow. "All right," Sir Topham Hatt said. "Belko, you get back to the quarry. Toby, take me back to Knapford Station." "Yes, sir," the engine said. Sir Topham Hatt then hopped in Toby's cab, and the two engines headed off. By tea time, Diesel had arrived with Bear. Diesel then uncoupled from the flatbeds and oiled away to finish the rest of his jobs. "Oh, Bear, what happened?" Thomas asked. "Another engine shoved me off the siding at Vickerstown Station," Bear said. "Sir Topham Hatt said that I might be here a while." "Oh, how unfortunate," Thomas said. "What happened to you?" Bear asked. "An engine put some trucks in the middle of the line and I ran into them." "At least the passengers didn't get hurt," Thomas said. How strange," Bear said. "Yes, I know," said Thomas. Later that day, the Flying Scotsman was taking a very important passenger train to the end of the line. Oliver was also at Knapford Station, picking up passengers. "Well, Oliver, it was very nice talking to you today," the Flying Scotsman said. "Oh yes, same here," Oliver said. "But I've got to go now. I do not want to be late," the Flying Scotsman said. "All right," Oliver said. The Flying Scotsman then blew his whistle and then bolted down the line. Everything was going But just as they got to the crossing before Kelstrop Station, disaster struck. The Flying Scotsman bolted through the crossing, and then went on what seemed to be like paved road. "What in the name of Sodor is going on here?" Sir Topham Hatt said as he stepped out of the coach. "I honestly don't know, sir," the Flying Scotsman said. "What is this, paved road?" Sir Topham Hatt said. "Probably so, sir," the Flying Scotsman said. "This is ridiculous. Thomas having an accident running into some random trucks on the main line, Bear being shoved off the siding at Vickerstown Station, and now this? What is this railway coming to?" Sir Topham Hatt said. Donald and Douglas then popped up to the scene of the accident. "What is going on here?" asked Donald. "We heard the commotion down at Vickerstown Station. What's going on here?" asked Douglas. "We've hit a bump in the track, so to speak," Sir Topham Hatt said. "Are we?" Donald said. "Are you trying to turn this railway into a motorsports arena?" asked Douglas. "Because that's what it looks like," he said. "Of course not. That's ridiculous," Sir Topham Hatt said. "Someone has done this to our railway," Sir Topham Hatt said. The station master of Kelstrop Station then stepped out. "I'll contact Knapford Station and tell them to send over an engine to help immediately," the station master said to Sir Topham Hatt. "Oh yes, please hurry," Sir Topham Hatt said. Oliver and Toad soon arrived on the scene. "Oh my goodness," Oliver said. "What happened?" Someone has turned this area of track into a road, Sir Topham Hatt said. Oh my, said Oliver. Donald and Douglas, I need you to take these coaches back over to Vickerstown as fast as you can, Sir Topham Hatt said. Of course, Donald said. Donald and Douglas were soon coupled up to the coaches, and they pulled up slowly so the coaches would not fall off of the pavement and right onto the track. After the coaches were on the track, they hurried away to Vickerstown Station. Now, Oliver, I need you to help me get the Flying Scotsman back on the track, Sir Topham Hatt said. I'll try, sir, Oliver said. Oliver then pulled up to the end of the crossing. Strong cables were hooked up between Oliver and the Flying Scotsman's water tanker. Oliver then pulled with all of his might and got the Flying Scotsman water tanker back onto the track. Strong cables were then hooked up to Oliver and the Flying Scotsman's coal tender. Oliver then pulled with all of his might the tender back onto the track. Strong cables were then hooked up to Oliver and the Flying Scotsman himself. Oliver then pulled with all of his might the Flying Scotsman back onto the track. Fantastic job, Oliver, Sir Topham Hatt said. Now let's get the Flying Scotsman to the works. Yes, sir, Oliver said. Sir Topham Hatt hopped in Oliver's cab, and then they left for the works. At the works, Thomas and Bear were having a conversation when they saw Oliver pulling into the works, pulling an engine. Is that who I think it is? Bear said. Oliver then pulled the Flying Scotsman into the works. Oh my, what happened? Thomas asked. Sir Topham Hatt then exited Oliver's cab. Someone turned the track in front of the crossing right before Calstrop into pavement, Sir Topham Hatt said. That's outrageous, Thomas said. Who could be so crazy to do that? Bear said. I don't know, but we need to get to the bottom of this fast before another engine comes to the works or has an accident, Sir Topham Hatt said. Oh yes, I agree, sir, the Flying Scotsman said. Oliver then got the Flying Scotsman back into order and backed him into the works. All right, it's been a very long day, and I'm going to get back to the Knapford station, Sir Topham Hatt said. Sounds like a good idea, said Bear. And Flying Scotsman, I will contact your controller as soon as I get back to Knapford station and tell him about the accident and that I will pay for everything, Sir Topham Hatt said. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, the Flying Scotsman said. Then Sir Topham Hatt hopped back in Oliver's cab, and the engine headed off to Knapford station. How could this happen? The Flying Scotsman said. I don't know, said Bear. Things have been a little odd lately, Thomas said. Agreed, said the Flying Scotsman. The next morning, Sir Topham Hatt held a very important meeting in the sheds. Now, said Sir Topham Hatt, over the next few days, I will need all of you to keep watch on suspicious activities, Sir Topham Hatt said. What do you mean suspicious, sir? Asked Holly. She had not heard about any of the accidents that had happened. Well, if any of you have not yet heard, I am going to tell you all now. There have been a few accidents happening on the island lately, and have all been intentional on, how am I gonna put this? Mr. Talking Hat said. Traumatizing the island, said Toby. Exactly, Mr. Talking Hat said. Traumatizing the island. So if any of you see or hear any suspicious activity, you need to go to the nearest station and contact the station master immediately, Mr. Talking Hat said. Yes, sir, the engine said. Over the next few days, the engines took on extra precautions and looked around the island to make sure everything was safe. And they kept their eyes peeled and watched out for anything suspicious. But after a week of all the extra precautions and all the unusual schedules, most of the engines thought they were safe. After the 1 week of safety precautions and unusual schedules, we came to cover the freight train on the ground. Hey, Dougie, you smell something? Asked Donald. Yeah, said Douglas. It smells like a wee bit of smoke, said Douglas. Doesn't seem unusual, said Donald. Probably some of Boco's diesel fumes blowing down from the docks, said Donald. Probably so, said Douglas. They soon passed through the crossing that the tractor trailer had been put into road and found Scotsman crashed in front of it. Thank goodness they fixed that, said Donald. Yeah, we've been having to take the long way around for the past few weeks, said Douglas. Hey, Dougie, you still smell that smoke? Asked Donald. Yeah, it's a lot stronger now, said Douglas. The twins were passing through Kelstrop Station. Oh dear, said Douglas. That car did smell suspicious, said Douglas. No one knew it would have been a bomb, said Donald. Meanwhile, on the other side of the island, Holly, Lady, Henry, Oliver, and Gordon were at Knapford Station. Holly and Lady were double-heading a passenger train. Henry and Oliver were taking some barrel cars, as it was too heavy for one engine to take alone. And Gordon was about due out for the express. Just then, 2 diesels that none of the engines had ever seen before oiled into the station.
Oh, hey, what's going on?
Said the purple and gray one. And who are you? Asked Holly. Do you even work on this railway? Asked Henry.
We're sorry, that's,
said the olive green and gray diesel.
that's confidential,
Said the purple and gray engine.
but, we better get going now.
Said the purple and gray engine.
Goodbye.
They said, as they oiled away as quick as they could. Well, that, said Gordon, was a little suspicious. Just then the station erupted into flames. Ah, help, said Holly. What are we gonna do? Said Lady. But their drivers and firemen had already left the scene. I knew something was suspicious, coughed Gordon. And now we're left here to die, coughed Henry. Why you gotta be so negative? We don't even know if we're gonna die, said Oliver. But we are. Our drivers and firemen have already left the station. Coughed Henry. Just then an engine pushed passenger coaches out of the station. It was Austin. Austin, they can't go up to Henry and Oliver's train. But by the time headed back to Gordon, the flames had erupted, had burned all of the moments that our fire truck arrived, starting to put out the fire. By the time the fire was out, the express coaches were destroyed, and so was the oil car that the two diesels had left. And the glass tops of Medford Station had fallen through. After the fire was out and everything was safe, the engines came back to the station. Looked at the scene of disaster. Oh, the station! Cried Lady. My express coaches are destroyed! Cried Gordon. All you can think about right now is the express coaches, said Henry. If it wasn't for Austin, we all would have been burned alive in there, said Oliver. Austin sat quietly behind me. Had then arrived momentarily. Oh, the station! Cried Sir Topham Hatt. First, I get a call about a bombing at Kelstrop, and then a fire at Knapford. What is this coming to? He said. At least none of you were destroyed or hurt, said Sir Topham Hatt. If it wasn't for Austin, we'd all be burned, said Holly. Fantastic job, Austin. Thank you very much, said Sir Topham Hatt. Yes, Sir Topham. You have caused the fire and the damages yet? No, not yet. But we have a more horrific scene to see, Mr. Topham. We must hurry over to Kelstrop Station as soon as we can. Yes, of course. And him and the police officers both got back to the building. And they drove away quickly. I wonder what happened at Kelstrop, said Henry. Austin, said Oliver. Are you okay? Asked Oliver. Yeah, just traumatized, he said. Why don't we go to Walsworth Yard and talk to Edward? Said Lady. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea, said Holly. All right. The engines then station. What in the name of King Godred happened here? Said Sir Topham Hatt. He then stared at the mess that lay before him. We're sorry, sir, said Douglas. We smell the smoke from one of the cars. We were about to tell the station master that we didn't have the chance before the car blew up, said Douglas. First, Thomas crashing into some random cars in the middle of the line, then Bear being shoved off the siding at Vickerstown, and then the flying Scotsman running over paved road and crashing. Now the bombing, then the fire. What could happen next? Said Sir Topham Hatt. I don't know, sir, Topham, said the police officer. How much is all of this going to cost? Said Sir Topham Hatt. This railway might end up going into debt, he said. Oh, how unfortunate that would be. Then all the citizens would leave, and there would be no jobs and no railway, said the police officer. Yes, said Sir Topham Hatt. There would be no island at all. Soon Boko, Bill, and arrived at Hell Shop to help clean up the mess. This isn't just fashion, said Boko. What a mess, he said. No, what a mess, said the twins. Bill and Ben were then coupled up to the one car that was left that was salvageable and headed off towards the yard. Donald and Douglas were then put back onto the track, and Boko pushed them to the works. At the works, the flying Scotsman, Thomas, and Bear were having a conversation when Boko pulled in with Donald. What happened? Asked Thomas. I'll tell you after I go get Douglas, said Boko. He came back into the yard, shunting Douglas a few minutes later. So what happened? Asked Thomas. We were passing by Scotsman Station when one of our freight cars exploded. It had a bomb in it, said Douglas. A bomb? Who could have done this to us? Said the flying Scotsman. Probably the same person who's been causing the rest of the trouble that's been going around lately, said Bear. Then after that, said Boko, somebody or some engine set Knapford Station on fire, he said. On fire? Said Thomas. Was anyone hurt? No. Gordon, Henry, Oliver, Lady, and Holly were there, but Austin rescued them safely, he said. At least anybody or any engine wasn't hurt, said the flying Scotsman. Now I've got to go help clean up the rest of the mess, said Boko. I'll see you guys later, he said, as he then oiled away quickly. At Wellsworth Yard, Henry, Gordon, Holly, Lady, and Oliver and Austin had met Edward, James, Duck, and Diesel. Wait, so what exactly happened again? Asked Edward. These two Diesels came into Knapford with an oil cart, said Henry. And then left it and went away quickly, said Holly. Then the station caught on fire and now my express coaches are burned to smithereens, he said. Well, at least anybody or any engine wasn't hurt, Gordon, said James. And Austin rescued us, said Oliver. And if it wasn't for him, we would all be burned alive, Oliver said. Well done, Austin, said Diesel. Why do y'all keep thanking me for? Said Austin. All I did was save your lives. I'm tired of people saying thank you to me, said Austin. But you earned praise, said Edward. And it's getting annoying, said Austin. I thank you for your praise, but I've heard it too many times already in the last few hours, Austin said. All right, said Duck. We won't bother you about it anymore, said Duck. Bill and Ben then arrived with the one boxcar that was left from the Kelstrop bombing. We've brought the one last freight car that was salvageable from the bombing, said Ben. Thank you, Bill and Ben. Just leave it there, said Edward. All right, said Bill. So they were uncoupled from the freight car and headed off to find Boko. Well, it's getting dark. We should all start going to sleep, Edward said. Well, I guess me and Oliver will head back to the sheds, said Duck. But how can you do that? The glass tops on that first station have fell through, said James. I think we can manage, said Oliver. So Henry and Edward moved off the line, and Duck and Oliver headed back towards Arlesdale sheds. And if you need anything, just come back here, said Edward. All right, said Oliver, as they puffed away down the line. So what are we gonna do? Asked Oliver, as Duck and Oliver arrived at Knapford Station. We're gonna push through the glass as hard as we can, said Duck. All right, said Oliver. So they pushed at the glass. And it fell down on them. The coupling had broke between Oliver and Toad as the glass came down. Yeah, fantastic idea, Duck, said Oliver. Well, I thought it would work, said Duck. Meanwhile, on the other side of the island, Bucko, Sir Tom Pat, and the police officer were waiting for Bill and Ben to arrive back at Kelstrop, or what was Kelstrop. Great work cleaning this up, said Sir Tom Pat. Now you can all go to back to the quarry, or back to Wellsworth, or the works to sleep, said Sir Tom Pat. I guess we'll go back to the quarry, said Bill. Yeah, said Ben. I'll go back to Wellsworth, said Bucko. All right, said Sir Tom Pat. You can go now. And the engines kept away. No, I will be expecting a damages report tomorrow morning, said Sir Tom Pat. Yes, sir, of course, sir, said the police officer. She then hopped back in her car and hurried away back to the police station. Tom Pat had gone back into his car and hurried away back to his house. Bucko soon arrived at Wellsworth Yard. He flipped around, so he would enter the yard backwards. Edward had made a place for Bucko in the yard. Well, I'm here now, Bucko said. Didn't think you were coming since it was getting so late, Edward said. Well, I'm here now, Bucko said. All right, said Edward. Meanwhile, at Tidness Sheds, Daisy oiled in onto the turntable and entered her shed. Well, where is everybody? Daisy asked. Well, haven't you heard? Toby asked. Heard what? Said Daisy. Knapford Station was set on fire today, said Percy. 2 diesels shunted in an oil car, and after they left it erupted into flames. Thank goodness none of the engines that were there were hurt. Oh my, said Daisy. So they're all other places, aren't they? She said. Yep, said Toby, and we're trapped in this little area and no way out until they clean it up. I guess we'll be sitting here for a while, won't we? Said Daisy. Yep, said Percy. Hours later, after the sun had set, at the works, a workman came up to Thomas. All the other engines were sleeping. Well, Thomas, looks like you are finally fixed, said the workman. Oh yes, of course, thank you, said Thomas sleepily. You can stay here or you can go somewhere else, said the workman. I guess I'll go somewhere else, said Thomas. And then he puffed away from the works. I've got to get out of here. They're on their way, said Lady to herself. All the engines of the yard are asleep except Lady. She quietly coupled up to Holly in front of her and pushed Holly and her out of the siding. She did it as quietly as she could so Holly would not wake up. Holly didn't even know that she was moving. The lady shunted her onto one of the nearby tracks that was still in the yard area. She then uncoupled from Holly and hurried off down the line. Thomas was just leaving the works. It was steaming in front of Farmer McCall's farm when he bumped into another engine. "No, shh!" said another voice. "Who is this?" asked Thomas quietly. "It's Santa Claus," said the voice sarcastically. "No, really, who is this?" asked Thomas. "It's a lady," she said. "Well, what are you doing out so late at night?" he said. "Trying to get somewhere. They're coming. We need to go," said the lady. "Who's coming?" "The Diesels," she said. "Now hurry up and switch tracks and get behind me," she said. "We need to hurry before they get here." So Thomas switched tracks to where he was behind Lady, and they hurried off back to the works. "Why were you back here?" said Thomas as they hurried in. "Because the entrance to the buffers are back here," said Lady quietly. "Now I need you to shunt there back into the spot that you were in," said Lady. "All right," said Thomas. Thomas then quietly coupled up to Bear's flatbed car and shunted him back into the siding that Thomas was in. He then uncoupled from the flatbed car. "Good, now let's go," Lady whispered. Thomas then backed out to the switch and coupled up to Lady, and they steamed behind the works. "Here we go," said Lady. They then went into the buffers. And just in time, too. The purple and gray diesel and the gray and olive green diesel appeared out of the buffers at the very far side of the island. Then 199 appeared. And finally, a big green olive green diesel with a claw appeared out of the buffers. "Splotch, you know where you're going, right?" said the big olive green. "It's Splatter. And it's Dodge," said Dodge. "I ain't got time to say those names," said the olive green diesel. "Yes, of course, boss," said Splatter. "And 199, you know where you're going, right?" said the olive green diesel. "Yes, of course, Diesel 10, said 199. "All right, let's get going." So they hurried over the big bridge and through Vickerstown Station, through the signal box, and off to do their order of business. "Whoa, that felt weird," said Thomas. Typical for a first-timer traveling," said Lady. "Now, before we get to Shining Time." "Shining Time?" Thomas said as he interrupted Lady. "Yes, that's the place that I'm from. Now, before we get to Shining Time, I need to tell you some stuff." Yes, go on, said Thomas. 1 hour on the shining time equals 4 hours on Sodor. So the less time that we spend on shining time, the better, said Lady. All right, said Thomas. Now it'll take us some time to get to the workshop, so we need to get there as fast as we can, said Lady. Okay, said Thomas. So they headed off into the other set of buffers. And on to shining time. So where exactly are we going? Asked Thomas. Muffle Mountain, to where I was built, said Lady. We're gonna grab a trap, the extra truck of gold dust, and head back to Sodor, said Lady. Meanwhile, in Sodor, the Diesels had captured all of the engines and shunted them into the docks. Here's the last of them, boss, said D199, as he shunted Gordon, James, and Henry into the docks. Good, now get over here, said Diesel 10. 199 did as he was told. Now, this is a one-time and one-time only chance, said Diesel 10. He was speaking to Daisy, Boko, and Diesel. We are inviting you to join our elite group of Diesels and take over the island and scrap those steamies, said Diesel 10. All we need is a yes or no answer, said Diesel 10. My answer is no, and that is final, said Daisy. All right then, 199, take her away, said Diesel 10. At your services, boss, said 199. 199 coupled up to Daisy and pulled her away to shunt her with the rest of the engines. Now, what about you two? Just say no, Boko, said Ben. Say no, Diesel, said Edward.
Yes, I will join your elite group of Diesels, said Diesel. Us Diesels will rule this island, and the Steamies will go extinct, he said.
Good, said Diesel 10. Now what about you, Boko? He said. Boko looked very nervous. Just say no, Boko, said Daisy as she was shunted in line with the other engines. I say yes, said Boko. No, said Bill. Why? Why would you betray us like this? Said Edward. Do not listen to them, said Diesel 10. Their opinions will get you scrapped, said Diesel 10. We need to get out of here, said Gordon. I've still got fuel, said Daisy. And I've still got coal, said James. So do I, said Henry. On 3, we will race out of here, said Gordon. 1, 2, 3, said Daisy. And the engines raced out of the docks as fast as they could. You fools! After them! Said Diesel 10.
Yes, boss, said Splatter.
The 2 Diesels raced away. They were about to the end of the bridge that led from Brendan to Elspeth. At the last second, Daisy revved her engine up as fast as she could. Torpedoed off of the bridge and into the Tidmouth Pavilion. They can't get me over here. Pick one for the team, Daisy said to herself. Gordon, James, and Henry came down from the bridge way too fast, hit the curve, and ran into the stations.
Oh, the indignity,
Gordon said, as he lay underneath Elsbridge Station. That hurt, said Henry. Splatter and Dodge then came to the scene.
Oh good, they've derailed. We're gonna leave them there,
said Dodge, as they then hurried back to tell Diesel 10. Splatter and Dodge then came back into the docks.
They've derailed, sir,
said Splatter. Good, said Diesel 10. Now we have a barrier, he said. Meanwhile, on Shining Time, Lady and Thomas were heading down Muffle Mountain. Almost there, she said. Just in that tunnel, she said. All right, said Thomas. Finally, we're here, said Lady, as her and Thomas puffed into the workshop. Then before them was the truck of gold dust. Lady coupled up to it. Now, before we go into these buffers, I want to thank you, Thomas, for helping me on this trip, she said. Oh, you're welcome, said Thomas. Now, as we go into the buffers, this will take us all the way back to Sodor, not having to go back through Shining Time nor the Magic Railroad. And when we go this way, it will speed up time on Sodor by 3 hours, she said. All right, let's do it, said Thomas. The two then puffed through the buffers. And back on Sodor. But by the time they got back, it was already too late. The diesels had done their damage. They puffed up to where Donald and the Flying Scotsman lay on the track. They had been biffed out through the back of the workshop. Lady carefully moved them aside off of the track so that they could get and they hurried off to find Diesel 10. They hurried down the main line. They saw Diesel 10 up ahead. There he is, said Lady. The two engines pulled up. Seize them, said Diesel 10. What? said Lady. Splatter and Dodge came up behind Thomas and Lady and bit them. 199. They pulled up against the points and shunted Lady and Thomas. Now the two engines were trapped in between the two diesels. Boko, what are you doing here? asked Lady. He's part of our side now, said Diesel 10. No, cried Thomas. It's now or never, thought Boko. Boko rolled forward quickly to biff Diesel 10 off the track, but Diesel hurried behind him and pushed him off first. Well, what a play and fail that was, said Boko. What? You never wanted to be in our group all along? said Diesel 10. No, said Boko. I was just trying to take you down from the inside. He said, but that failed. Thanks a lot, traitor. Boko said he was referring to Diesel. Yeah, no problem, said Diesel. Now, said Diesel 10, compress them, he said. No, said Thomas. The two diesels pushed Thomas and Lady together. Where they were derailed. Finally, Diesel shall rule the island, he said. Then all of a sudden, Lady rose from the ground and put herself back onto the track. What? What is this? said Diesel 10. Oh, did you not see my present I brought with me? said Lady, as she was referring to a freight car. Full of gold dust, she said. Just what I needed for this operation, she said. What? Bye-bye. Bye, Dieselton. What? No! He said as Lady came up to him and rammed him off the track. She then put herself back onto the track. Oh, what a fool, she said. What a fool. She then put Thomas back on the track. And her truck of gold dust. Hooray, we're saved, said Thomas. Lady then put Boko back on the track. Thank you, Lady, he said. You're welcome, she said, as she then hurried off to the docks. She arrived at Ellsbridge Station, where James, Gordon, and Henry had crashed. She then put them back onto the track.
Thank you.
Said Henry.
What could we have done without you? James said.
Oh, no problem, she said as she hurried off to the docks. They then arrived back at the docks. Hooray, we're saved, cried Percy. Hip hip hooray, Thomas and Lady saved the day, said the engines. The next morning, Sir Topham Hatt, Thomas and Lady waited for the engine from the other railway to arrive and to take the diesels away. The diesel soon arrived. Lady then put Splatter and Dodge, D199, and Diesel 10 back onto the track.
Oh yes, the British ambassador will be here very soon, said the Diesel before he left.
Oh, okay, said Sir Topham Hatt. The Diesel then headed back with Diesel 10, Splatter and Dodge, and D199 back to the other railway. And don't come back, Lady said. She then put Diesel back on the track. Now, Diesel, for your punishment you shall sit in your shed for the next month, said Sir Topham Hatt. Yes, sir, Diesel said. Moments later, a British helicopter arrived on Sodor and landed beside Sir Topham Hatt and the engines. Are you Sir Stephen Topham Hatt? Asked the man. Yes, you must be the ambassador of Great Britain, said Sir Topham Hatt. Yes. Now I give you this present from the British government themselves, said the man. He then gave Sir Topham Hatt a piece of paper. Now I must go. We are pretty busy over there. In Great Britain, said the man. He hopped back in the helicopter, and the helicopter flew away. Sir Topham Hatt opened the envelope that the ambassador had given him, and looked at the piece of paper that was within it. Oh my goodness, said Sir Topham Hatt. A check worth $5 million, said Sir Topham Hatt. Wow, what a surprise, Lady said. Yes, and I will use this to repair my engines and to rebuild the island, said Sir Topham Hatt. Yes, sir, said Thomas. Sounds good. But it will take a very long time and lots of work, he said finally.